All right, I'm just looking for the agenda here, which I know is simple. Bring the April 5th City Council special meeting to order. Is there a motion on tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda for the special city council meeting.
A second.
Motion made, second. Discussion. Hearing none. Jack, could you take roll call vote, please? You're on mute, Jack.
Brian Mundell,
Aye.
Shelley Beck,
Aye.
Suzanne Urkel,
Aye.
Tim Harrington,
Aye.
Steve Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. Okay, Jack, on to you. Approval of the MnDOT cooperative agreement.
At staff's request, the special city council meeting has been called by Mayor Voss to consider the approval of the MnDOT cooperative agreement for the service road project. We need to approve the agreement and return to MnDOT so we can consider the project bid awards at the April 12th, 2021 council meeting. In your packet is the cooperative construction agreement, MnDOT contract number 1044592. And resolution 2021-17 approving that agreement between the city and MnDOT. Staff is requesting approval of the MnDOT cooperative agreement from City Council for the East Side Service Road project.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-17, Highway 65 cooperative construction agreement for the city of East Bethel.
A second.
Second by Brian. Discussion. Hearing none. Jack, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilperson Mundell,
Aye.
Councilperson Harrington,
Aye.
Councilperson Beck,
Aye.
Councilperson Urkel,
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passed. So that concludes our agenda for the special meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Motion made second. Jack, you take roll call vote, please.
Councilperson Mundell,
Aye.
Councilperson Harrington,
Aye.
Councilperson Beck,
Aye.
Councilperson Urkel,
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. That concludes our special meeting. Our meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We'll bring the April 5th East Bethel City Council work meeting to order. Is there a motion on tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second. Second. Suzanne, any discussion?
Yes, I would like to add discussion on the Lever Street issue. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda and add discussion on Lever Street.
Okay, we'll have it as a motion to amend. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
The motion made in second. Discussion on the motion to amend. We can add it at the end under miscellaneous. Is there something you're adding or something you're asking in terms of the Lever Street?
All four of us council members have been called out to the Lever Street location, and there's still a lot of issues with some residents verbally assaulting other residents, resulting in cops being called.
Okay, so is your question that you want to add it as a question to staff of what the status is?
On what we can do to resolve the issue of the Lever Street.
Okay. We can add it to the agenda. My point I'm trying to make is we don't know what we're going to discuss. We have nothing before us and nothing ahead, provided ahead of time. So I'm just asking how much of a discussion it's going to be. I assume you're going to present something. So,
Steve, I think it'd be a short discussion just to address staff.
okay. Any other discussion to the motion to amend? Jack, can you take roll call vote, please?
Councilperson Mundle,
Aye.
Councilperson Harrington,
Aye.
Councilperson Beck,
Aye.
Councilperson Urkel,
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. Back to the original motion. Is there any further discussion on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. To the motion as amended, Jack, can you take roll call vote, please?
Councilperson Mundle,
Aye.
Councilperson Harrington,
Aye.
Councilperson Beck,
Aye.
Councilperson Urkel,
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. On the first item tonight, 22921 Johnson Street Northeast, B&T Trucking. Jack.
At this time, I'll turn this over to Stephanie Hansen, who will introduce an issue that we feel requires some direction from City Council before proceeding on some additions or building permit or permit issues for this property. Stephanie? Stephanie, can you hear us?
Stephanie?
It appears Stephanie's trying to log in again.
Yeah, I'm here now. I got kicked off.
Okay.
It wasn't us.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So tonight, I wanted to discuss a little bit about B&K Trucking. They're located at 1311 229th Avenue Northeast. It's an over-road trucking company that's been in business about 20 years. They've been in East Bethel for about 8 years. So this business employs 3 office people and 9 drivers. And at all times, there's about 5 semi-trailers stored on the site at any time. You can go by the property, and there typically is no more than that. They do some routine truck and trailer maintenance on site. It's all being done outside right now. But prior to moving to East Bethel about 8 years ago, they submitted a letter to the city, which I attached to your staff report, and we did have that in our address file. And they had made numerous phone calls to staff. According to the owner, staff was unresponsive to his calls. So I know in his letter he said he wanted a certificate of occupancy to be issued for the building. We don't know if one's ever been issued because POs were never kept on file prior to 2016, so we don't have that on file. But again, we do know that he did submit a letter to the city trying to see if he can operate from that property and to get a certificate of occupancy. The property is always neat and orderly, so non-compliancy hasn't been an issue at all. Staff is in the opinion that the current use of the property for the past 8 years has been very low profile. So this is what I wanted to discuss. The business owner did contact staff in regarding to adding an addition on the existing building. So the addition would be for an area where they can do routine maintenance for the fleet vehicles, which again is currently being done outside. But the issue is that the use of that property may be defined as a truck or motor freight vehicle terminal, and they do not have permission to be there. So one, I need staff to provide us direction for the following. One, is the use defined as a truck or motor freight vehicle? And if so, Does the city continue to allow the use of it as a non-conforming use? Because according to our city code, truck and motor freight terminals are not an allowed use anywhere in the city. However, there have been instances when CUPs were issued for the same types of use, such as that, I cannot remember it now, PVC or whatever's up on 221st and Highway 65. They have a CUP, and then Universal Trucking also got a CUP for a similar use. And then another question, the city council suggests that the property owner apply for the CUP. And then also, if city council does not suggest a CUP, should staff issue the building permit so they can expand the non-conforming use of the property. And that's the end of it. I can answer any questions if you have any for clarification.
Stephanie, just for clarity, so they're allowed to have 5 trucks there? Is that
They are. Yeah, technically they're not allowed to have any. This is a business that is actually illegal non-conforming because truck and motor freight terminals are not allowed within the city anywhere. But on this particular site, they've been operating for 8 years and they've always had about 5 of the trailers there at all times.
Well, I just wanted to point out that the aerial photo you included in the packet has 10 trailers there, so.
Okay, yeah, he said I was talking to the property owner and he said typically it's about 5 that they have there. Their biggest freight, as many as they have, is 10. They have 9 employees that will kind of come in, go, and switch out the trailers.
Just to give council a little background, and this might have predated Jack, I'm not sure, but First State Tire used to be on this property, and they literally had that entire yard full of trailers, and the city was in litigation with them for, I'm going to say, at least 10 years to get First State Tire, because they were doing tire shredding is what they were doing. So
yeah, they
none
have
of it
big
was,
piles of the tires too.
yeah. So I say that just in the context of what's there now is 1,000 times better than what was there before. So just to give you some history of the property. So any other questions? Go ahead.
Just a little bit of clarification too. So I talked to the Taurus, he's the owner of B&K. He purchased it from the owner of the First State Tire, and I can't remember his name offhand right now. So at the time that he purchased this property, the previous owner was telling him, "Oh yeah, you can have the trucking terminal there. It's no problem." As you know, the city revoked the CUP for that. And then that's when Taurus was trying to get a hold of the city and sent a letter to the city. However, he didn't get any response, so he moved his business in there.
Any other questions, background questions for Stephanie?
Stephanie,
Go ahead.
Stephanie, CUP runs with the property. Could this be allowed under an IUP?
Well, technically, the city code lists what's allowed with a CUP and an IUP, and our code doesn't allow these types of uses anyways. However, in the past, the council has given CUPs for a couple other properties for truck and motor freight terminals. You know, I think that'd be a better question for the attorney.
Okay, because yeah, going with the history of the property, it's always been, they've had trucks.
Right.
And so I could see it continuing as an allowed use, because whether it was technically allowed or not before, but it was there. And we have another, seems to be good business that cares about their property and appearance, minimally invasive. But because it is legal non-conforming, if they were to sell again, would the CUP allow for another business to come in for trucking without being in front of council, where an IUP would just go with the current business, and if they sold again, council could make a decision as to whether or not allow another trucking company in there. I guess
Yeah.
that's where I was going with the CUP versus IUP.
Yep, and you're right. You're absolutely right. You know, if you did an IUP, you could put a time frame on it, or you could put some type of condition on it that at the time that it switches owners, you know, something like that, where the CUP definitely runs with the land.
Yeah, I think with the legal non-conforming, it'd be better in the city's interest to have an IUP on it if that can be done.
Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, Stephanie, is there any issues with any of the neighbors around there? Any complaints or anything?
No, we haven't had any complaints on the property.
I like Brian. I'm willing to work with the business. It's a clean place. I've been up there. It's a lot better than some of the businesses around here. So, you know, whatever we can do, you know, I'd like to see them expand. Probably bring in some more employees. I think it'd be good for the city.
So, Stephanie, in your write-up, if I understand it right, it says they're doing routine truck and trailer maintenance. But a motor freight terminal is defined as a facility that redistributes the loads and between the trailers. Are they actually doing that there?
I would have to verify with them. I don't believe that they are,
Well, if that's
but I
the,
can verify that.
what makes them a motor freight terminal then?
Well, that I'm not sure. You know, we've always had it where they can't have uses where they're storing semis and semi trailers, and that's about the only definition I could see that they could somewhat fit under.
So have you talked to them about whether they consider themselves a truck or motor freight terminal?
They just say it's a trucking company. Over the road trucking company is what they say.
Steve, if you refer to the letter that was submitted, that's in attachment 2 from B&T, they do say we plan on running a trucking company from this property that we be classified as a warehouse and distribution center. This will include parts of the road, semi trucks, maintenance repairs, and the redistribution of product from one trailer to another. That is in the letter that they submitted. Whether that is how they are currently operating their business, that could be a question to ask.
I mean, I'm asking for the fact that if they're not doing it right now, I certainly don't want to give them a permit to do it. If that's not their operation, the motor freight aspect of it.
Okay, and I'll verify that with them.
Stephanie, has planning talked about this at all?
No, this was just brought to my attention the last couple of weeks. I've been working with the property owner.
Okay. I was just wondering if they had any discussion. I guess my opinion on it would be to see if we can do a IUP. I guess define what kind of business it actually is. And they're willing to work with us, I'd be willing to work with them.
It seems to be the consensus.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
On to item 4, American Rescue Plan. Jack.
The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 is a 1.9 trillion economic stimulus bill passed by Congress and signed into law by President Biden on March 11, 2021. to speed up the nation's recovery from economic and health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. As part of the bill, $350 billion has been designated to help state and local governments address economic impacts related to COVID-19. The information in your packet below is a categorized summary of the provisions that would directly impact the city of East Bethel, local businesses in the city, and ISD 15. There's a small business provision in the article that includes lots of funds for access to small business. These are separate pots of money that are not now administered by the city. Guidelines are still out there as to their distribution. We'll keep an eye on them and advise our small businesses and work with the chamber to make sure this information is disseminated to them. There's also a public safety provision in the bill that includes $300 million for assistance to firefighter grants, $100 million via emergency management performance grant program to state and local emergency management agencies to assist with the vaccine rollout. Chief DeSharm will be looking into what can be accessed or what the city would be eligible to under this portion of the program. The two biggest portions of the program that relate directly to the city are the infrastructure provisions. And under this, there's $30.5 billion for grants to transit agencies, which that doesn't affect us. The biggest part of that is 1.7 billion for capital investment grants, which we'll get into in a breakdown in just a moment. 281 million for rural transit agencies, which I don't know if this could be used to revive or at least attract the entrance of getting that bus route back from East Bethel to downtown Minneapolis, and $8 billion for airports and airport concessions impacted by the pandemic. This may have some bearing for the Blaine and Oka County Airport. And then there's provisions in the Act for broadband, specifically under this portion of the program. It's funds to assist schools and libraries with broadband connection, including hotspots, routers, and other connected devices. That doesn't directly affect us, but there's another section that I'll get into in a minute that will have some impact or things that we may want to consider. The allocation of the program funds are scheduled as follows. Cities under 50,000 population are allocated according to their size share, but will not exceed 75% of their most recent budget as of January 27th, 2020. East Bethel's share of the American Recovery Plan's funds is projected to be $1.37 million. The distribution settlements will be as follows. The first half amount will be received 60 days after the enactment of the bill. The state will distribute payments no later than 30 days after the state has received their payment from the federal government. An extension may be granted to the state due to extensive administrative burden. The second half amount will be received no earlier than 12 months after the first distribution. So that means if we get our first distribution in the middle of May, the second distribution would be in the middle of May of 2022. Funds must be spent by December 31st, 2024, which gives us much more leeway than the CARES Act funds did, which had to be spent in a 6-month period. Now we have a 3-year time span. Eligible uses are revenue replacement for provision of government services to the extent the reduction in revenue due to COVID-19 public health emergency relative to revenues collected in the most recent full fiscal year to the emergency of 2019. And here's the big one for us. Eligible uses include investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. We're currently ready to consider the award of the service road project on the east side. For the utilities payments in that, we were planning on using some of our existing water and sewer funds with a $200,000 allocation from our general fund. These ARP funds now can be used for that, so we can leave these other funds and they can remain whole. And this would cover the cost of the utilities portion of the service road project. Broadband infrastructure is another use that we've talked about trying to use city funds for. The only problem with that is it may take a year or two to develop some projects. We'd have to work with some of our internet service providers to come up with probably some smaller projects. So in this case, we're probably gonna be looking at consideration of using this for water and sewer. That's gonna be a staff recommendation. Ineligible funds they cannot be used to directly or indirectly offset tax reductions or delay a tax or tax increase, and they cannot be deposited in any pension funds. Potential projects for these funds could include the service road project, as I mentioned, and this would take essentially the full amount of that if we considered the alternative bids to the project. We could also, if there was some left over, use this to pay for the broadband service plan that we had discussed. Uh, there's some other extension projects and water storage projects we could consider, but I would think the first two would be the priorities we want to address. So I'm just providing this information to you as information only at this time. We have any discussion that we want to talk about priorities, we'll certainly welcome those, but at this time, staff's recommendation for the initial consideration of use of these funds is to apply them to the East Side Service Road project, which will let our own city funds remain intact, and we will have them for other uses in the future.
Any other ideas for potential projects that folks may have right now? Jack, you mentioned the former bus route. I guess I would just kind of throw out there with the whole change in the way everyone's doing work. Downtown's kind of a ghost town these days. So I'm not sure how much use that would get, particularly when we're talking about improving our internet access out here so people can work at home more. So, so I'm not sure if that's gonna be a viable project, but
And I agree with you, it probably won't, that's the only application that I could see where we would benefit from any transit applications of that. As an interesting note, I had a conversation with MnDOT today about this cooperative agreement that we just approved in our special meeting. If they needed that dropped off in person or if they would accept an electronic transmission. And I was told that the Water's Edge facility in Rosedale, they didn't anticipate really having anybody back in that facility until June of this year. They have a skeleton crew in there now. So what you said is very salient, and there may not be much interest in transit at this point.
and then you mentioned that we can hang on to these funds. We can use 3 years to spend these funds.
That's correct.
So then I'm gonna throw out there is if we're gonna pursue broadband on a service plan, perhaps we should, reserve some additional funds that may be used for a project that's associated with it. Because that'll be our next challenge after we have a plan is how do we implement something. I think that's something to think about too. Broadband is certainly a priority. So, any other thoughts?
Well, I'd like to see the money go towards that sewer and water on 186 there. Jack, that'll take it right up to Highway 22, wouldn't it?
That would be if we approved the alternate bid and then a possible extension of another 400 feet of that. We could get that other extension at the same unit prices that the other portions of the project were bid at. So that'll be something we'll discuss at the April 12th meeting when we consider the award of the bid.
Okay, with this money, we wouldn't have to go into any other funds, correct?
Not for
Or
the
very little?
utility, not for the, this should cover all the utilities cost.
No general levy or no nothing, anything like that, right?
Excuse me, Tim?
No, nothing in the general levy, nothing out of there or anything.
No, this wouldn't, the other funds wouldn't affected the levy, but what we would have to done was take approximately $800,000 from our $900,000 from our existing water and sewer fund, which currently totals about 1.4 million, and then supplement that with a transfer from a little surplus we have in the general fund to pay for the utilities portion of this project. But by using these funds, then that allows all those accounts to remain whole, and we don't have to dig into those, and we can have them for future use.
I think that's a good investment. The 181st, 85th, and broadband. Those are the two. Because people are really having problems out here with internet.
Okay, any other thoughts?
I
Okay.
agree with the broadband being a priority with so many people working from home and working for the school district, all the children that are online trying to learn.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 5, proposed rain garden projects.
We've been informed by the Sunrise River Watershed Management Organization that there are 2 potential rain garden projects on East Front Boulevard that could be constructed this year. One project is located at 19255, and the other project at 19200 East Front Boulevard. We have been recently noticed after the packet was sent out that the project at 19200 East Front Boulevard is no longer under consideration because it doesn't meet the cost benefit ratio of the project. But there has been another project that could be considered. We'll add that and go over that in a minute. The project at 19255 was identified in the 2014 Water Quality Study Project for Coon Lake and was ranked 9th of 30 projects for phosphorus reductions to the lake. This project would treat a 0.55 acre drainage area and capture an estimated 1.1 pounds of phosphorus and 205 pounds of sediment per year. Jamie Sherbin, Anoka County Conservation District, has advised the city that there may be a need to have a portion of these facilities within the existing street easements. The final design of these structures will attempt to keep the structures on the owner's property if at all possible. Should use of a portion of the easement be required, the city would be requested to waive the right of permit fee for the project. Prior to the agreement for use of the easement, the city would have to evaluate the impact of the structure on traffic safety and existing underground structures and utilities. There's a photo in your packet that shows the location of the proposed rain garden project at 19255 East Front Boulevard. Other completed Sunrise River WMO rain garden projects in the city are located at 4417 Channel Lane, 19303 East Bethel Boulevard, and 182 Forest Road. All these required some or entire use of the road right of way. As a requirement of these projects, property owners must sign a grant agreement that obligates them to a 10-year commitment for the maintenance of the facility and provides penalties for noncompliance. A sample copy of the agreement is attached in your packet as Exhibit 4. Both of these gardens would be fully paid from approved 2021 state grant funds and Sunrise River WMO matching funds of 10% that have been budgeted for this purpose. These grant funds expire at the end of this year. On March 31st, 2021, another property owner at 19163 East Front Boulevard has expressed an interest in participating in the program. The proposed projects at the above address and at 19200 East Front Boulevard will be evaluated by the Sunrise River SWMO for cost effectiveness in sediment and phosphorus reduction prior to grant approval. As I previously stated, the project at 19200 has been evaluated and removed from the list due to the cost of relocating utilities that would provide little benefit in terms of what it provided in terms of catchment of phosphorus and sediment. So the one thing I just want to make everybody aware of is that these projects will probably be coming to the city for approval. Probably all or some of the rain gardens will be in the city right of way, which has been the practice for the previous 3. And all of those have worked out very well to date. And just kind of a background, so when they come up, everybody will have some additional information.
Any questions for Jack on this? Suzanne?
I have a question. How how do people, how is it decided who gets one of these rain gardens? Do the people apply, or does the water management people go knock door to door? How is it decided who gets them?
Suzanne, I think it's mostly that the property owners express interest to the WMO. And they submit that interest in the WMO, evaluates that to see if it's an effective project.
Okay, and then,
Can I clarify that? It's a little bit wrong. One of those rain gardens you see on the photo is my property, 19303. We actually have two rain gardens that ACD installed. We have one across the street on our properties there. Well, what Anoka Conservation District did back in 2013, 2014 is they went around the lake and they identified areas that have drainage that goes directly into the lake where they can potentially put these rain gardens and have the best effect, the cost benefit basically. And so Jamie approached us, they approached the properties that we're looking at right now. There was, I want to say there was about a dozen properties, and there was a meeting at Coon Lake Beach Community Center where they brought these particular property owners in. And so it was a presentation to us, and then it was a discussion of whether or not the property owners wanted it. So it wasn't the I want a rain garden thing. It was that actually ACD came out to the residents. So, but it wasn't everything. They picked particular properties that would work for it. So,
okay, that makes sense. So what if, I looked at all the maintenance that's required, and it seems like it's a lot versus having to mow. What if, okay, who makes sure that the maintenance is happening, and what happens if the maintenance is not happening?
There's a set of conditions in the agreement that's signed by the owners that dictates what maintenance is required and what the penalties are for non-compliance. Generally, it's up to the owner to do that. We've kind of made it a point with the public works people when we're out and about and looking at other things. And we check these rain gardens to see if there's any maintenance required. And then we would notify the ACD and they could require the property owner to fulfill their commitment on the maintenance.
Okay.
Jamie goes out to these rain gardens too and checks them, so
Yep.
it's city and ACD, so they're
Okay.
ACD's pretty thorough with these rain gardens.
Okay, so how does, I'm trying to think of, you said there's one on East Bethel Boulevard. How does that flow into the lake?
I apologize. That should have been East Front Boulevard.
Oh, East Front. Okay, now that makes a little more sense. All right, because I'm like, East Bethel Boulevard? Does that mean I get one? All right. That's it. Thanks.
And Jack, isn't it that at the one right next to Steve, isn't there a pipe that runs right to the lake? So that's really a big benefit too.
Yeah, there's usually, these work best where there's a place to discharge. It's gonna
Yeah.
require probably less maintenance. There's gonna be less sediment maybe to clean out, but generally they try to locate them where there's an existing drainage structure. They seem to work better. In some cases, like the one at 19200, that may have been a percolation basin only. But generally they try to locate them where there's a drainage structure they can discharge in.
yeah, so the structures don't actually discharge. What happens is, because it happens to ours, after enough rain, and if there's enough rain, it will fill the garden. And what happens is instead of the water flowing into the rain garden, it just stays in the street gutter and just bypasses the garden until enough water is infiltrated into the rain garden. So
Yeah.
there's no connection to the city utility at all.
There are a few. The one on Channel Lane does have, it's like an overflow pipe. It may be because of the drainage area, but it does connect to a drain pipe. There's different designs for them for different locations.
And you're right, Tim. There is a culvert that goes right between my property and 19255. There's actually and that goes directly into the lake, and right straight down to the lake. Okay, is there any other questions or comments? All right, we'll move on to the next item then.
Miscellaneous items. Service Road Project Item Addition. Due to the proximity of the 186th Avenue Viking Boulevard Service Road to the west parking lot, physical education and recess area at the Star of the North Academy, we need to add a fence that will provide a barrier to separate the road from this portion of the school. Cost of the fence and a 24-foot double swing gate would be $9,995. This is recommended as a safety item and by request from the Star of the North Academy to replace the entrance closure to their west parking lot from Viking Boulevard. This item would be added, or proposed to be added at the April 12, 2021 council agenda for approval. The expense for the fence would be an eligible MnDOT project cost. We're just submitting this in case you have any advanced questions. There's a site plan that shows the location of the fence and the fence bids that we received for the installation of this project.
Any questions for Jack? I've got a couple. What's the purpose of the fence?
It's a barrier between the physical education and recess area. They have basketball courts on that parking lot that butt up to the west edge of it, which is the west edge of the right of way of the service road. So from that west edge of the parking lot that you can see, the edge of the pavement of the service road is approximately 28 feet from that pavement. So if a ball or something gets loose, it keeps it in that area and keeps kids from running over into the road.
Okay, I was curious because I don't think I've ever seen anyone use that parking lot ever, even for parking. So
No, for parking, it has very limited use. It's mostly used for outdoor recreation, recess, and physical education classes.
and then
Oh, go ahead.
my biggest problem, my biggest issue on it is just the aesthetics of this chain link fence right next to our brand new road and entrance into, other developments. I don't know, I'm just not comfortable with it, I guess.
Well, no.
Suzanne? Go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
That could be upgraded to, with the vinyl coated chain link or even to another style of fence. We can certainly open that up to any other recommendations for material types.
I guess any fence. That's, I guess, my point. So it just seems odd. Suzanne, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say, why don't they just switch it and have the people park on that side and the PE on the other side? Because if they're playing basketball, a 6-foot fence not going to stop a ball. Not if they're shooting them up high. It doesn't make any sense. You need a 10-foot fence and one of those big fences you see off the highways.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point.
Yeah, it is, and of course, it wouldn't stop a ball, but it would stop a child. I think that's the key consideration. That
Well, I still question whether you use it. That's I guess my point. So.
And in terms of your other point, Suzanne, the upper parking lot is much easier to access for buses, people dropping children off, and there's really no main entrance to the access to the building from that lower parking lot.
And it's also, I think that's a lower grade down there too. I think goes in like the back door of the building. So
It is, and it actually goes into the basement of the building.
yeah, that's where NACE used to be. That was NACE's. That parking lot used to be used by NACE for the most part. So
Even if another idea would be like a nice wood fence and then put some bushes or something to make it look a little bit more appealing instead of just having a chain link fence.
And if their concern is the basketball courts, they don't need a fence all the way up to Viking Boulevard though. When the kids are, I mean, there is a fenced in area on the east side of this property that they use as a playground.
If it's a school, they should already have a fenced in area for the children.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be allowed to be just running about. So maybe that if they're it should be their responsibility and not ours.
No, I agree with a lot of that. And part of this is like was mentioned in the write-up. They're giving up their entrance on Viking Boulevard so that our entrance can go in. And this is kind of a way to partially compensate them for not being able to access the lot from Viking.
If they're looking for screening, I'd rather spend that money and plant, 30 pine trees or something along that, or arborvitae or something that will grow. It's a little more aesthetically pleasing than any kind of chain link, and a long chain link fence that doesn't serve any purpose. So Jack, is this coming to council then?
Yes, we'll bring it to council. I just wanted to bring it to the work meeting to have like a pre-discussion of it to see if anybody had any other ideas or how we want to address it.
So the school brought this forward?
Actually, they did. They requested that we're requesting a piece of right-of-way entrance from them to close that upper thing, and they said they'd be willing to do it, but they'd like to see a fence installed along that parking lot.
Any other thoughts for Jack? Okay. That's in, I don't have my agenda in front of me. So we're off. We finished the original agenda. Now we're on Lever Street.
Now we got one more
So-
miscellaneous item.
I'm
And
sorry.
that's item B. It's in-person meetings.
I'm sorry.
At the February 1st, 2021 City Council work meeting, council reviewed the format options of remaining virtual, hybrid, or returning to in-person meetings. Council's consensus was to reassess the matter of returning to in-person meetings in 2 to 3 months. City Hall was reopened to public-facing business on March 24th, 2021. Vaccination rates increasing and keeping social distancing and masking requirements in place for meetings, it may be time to reconsider this matter. From the Minnesota Department of Health, their March 30th, 2021 update on the trends of COVID pandemic, the following information is provided. As of March 12th, 2021, nearly 1.2 million Minnesotans had received at least one dose of the vaccine. The MDH data shows that new cases are down from their peak, hospitalizations are declining, and fewer people are dying of COVID-19. In addition to this, the MDH still recommends Minnesotans to keep wearing masks. MDH requires the continuance of social distancing. Even though restrictions are loosening, venues are still required to maintain 6 feet of distance. And effective April 15th, work from home will be strongly recommended, continue to be strongly recommended, though not mandated for those who can, but not required. All employees should continue to accommodate employees who wish to work from home. Should there be a decision to return to live meetings, council chambers can accommodate no more than 20 persons under the social distancing requirements. Masking would also be recommended to remain in place for live meeting participation and attendance. Discussion on this matter with directions to staff as appropriate for each item are requested.
So I asked Jack to add this to our agenda, just because numbers are going down, and sure enough, as soon as I asked Jack to put it on the agenda, the numbers have been going up ever since, so. But it's worthwhile having a discussion. So anyone's thoughts?
Jack,
Brian?
States here, the chambers can accommodate no more than 20 persons. So is that council plus anyone who attends.
That's correct. It does include council, any city staff, and then the remainder could be residents.
So we could have anywhere from 10 to 12 residents in attendance.
Correct.
Okay,
Suzanne?
Yeah, I've been ready to go back to in-person meetings, but only if we all are there, not if, I don't want to be hybrid and part online, part not online. I get so many calls that people say I couldn't watch it live, and this was broken up and I could only hear parts of it and all those kind of things. So I've been ready to go 100%. And we rarely have more than five, whoops, five, five people there unless there's a big thing. Trying to turn my TV.
Well, I think it's, I think planning probably has more people in attendance than we do at times, so. And there's 7 planning members. So, Jack, I know you've looked at it in terms of layout for the meeting. With council and then with planning having 7 members, how do we assemble the actual council members and the commission members to have that separation? Do we have enough technology to do that?
Well, we have the technology. It's basically how many microphones do we have? We have the microphones to accommodate that. What we would have to do is set 4 people at the council dais, set up 2 positions on the main floor in front of the dais for one other council person. The city attorney, the city attorney could remain at his position. The city administrator would move down to the floor level. That would give us the 6-foot spacing for social distancing. And then we did a mock layout of the chairs, how they would have to be arranged to ensure that we had, like Brian said, up to 12 to 13 seats at a maximum for 6-foot social distancing for anyone that wished to come to the meeting as a citizen. If there were a little larger crowd, we could have probably up to 4 seats in the lobby for people to wait to present. So we've already gone through that. We can do that and maintain the social distancing aspects, but again, it's going to be limited to essentially 20 people within council chambers.
And then for planning, there's 2 additional seats.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
there's no attorney there, I guess. So.
no, there's still be 7. We have 7 at the council meeting. So that number would still be the same. There would be 4 that would be seated around the dais and then 3 at floor level.
Well, plus Stephanie, and if there's someone else, if Aaron's there too, so.
Yeah, well, in that case, we would have just probably 1 staff member, so.
Okay.
Jack, can we put this on on the planning meeting agenda and on the parks agenda so that if we're meeting in person, would they be required to meet as well in person? Or would they still have the option to do as they please, either virtual or in person?
I think that's a good question. If there are people on either of those commissions that have major objections or issues, I agree with Suzanne. The hybrid method will not work for us. We don't essentially have the technology to do that type of meeting. So again, it would probably have to be one way or the other, but it would be interesting to pose that question to them to make sure that those groups are comfortable going back to an in-person meeting. Probably the other thing is it probably should be pretty standard too. I don't really, I don't want to see us go back to something just scattered all over the board.
Yeah, well, lots of people have different opinions on it one way or another. And I wouldn't want to make an order for the planning commission or the park commission to must meet in public. So if they would discuss it among themselves if they are either comfortable meeting in person or if they want to keep virtual, just kind of leave it up to them.
I will talk to the park commission on my next meeting and get back to you guys on what they say.
Yeah, because I want to make sure if we do make the decision to meet in person, it's not forcing those two other commissions to do the same. I would like
And
to have the option.
I agree with that too. You know, it's, and I also agree with Suzanne that, you know, I think we all need to be comfortable in doing that. You know, for the most part over the last year, I think we've done fairly well on the business of running the city, you know, through these virtual meetings. You know, we've lost some of the face-to-face. I know these last couple meetings, I think it would have been beneficial to everyone to have that discussion more in person than virtually. But again, at the same time, you know, we are still, we're functioning well, I think, do this way. And although we have these technical glitches, I just want to remind everyone we had technical glitches when we met in person too. So maybe not as often or as frustrating, but they happen. So it sounds like we want to query the planning commission and the parks commission on how they feel about going back to live meetings, and then have that report back to council, and we can have another discussion. That sound? Yep, I think we're all in agreement there.
Yep.
Okay, good. Now on to Lever Street.
The only reason I'm bringing up Lever Street now is we had Mr. Jack Davis and Brian Mundell out today to check on the situation. Each one of us council members have been called out to that location. And as of today, I was part of a heated discussion from one of the neighbors claiming to have ownership of Lever Street, and it's getting to the point of verbal assaults and having to have the authority, the police come out, and that needs to stop. And Jack, you said that the city has interest in that street, and the neighbors don't own that property, correct? Because what they're doing is they're using it as a dump for their leaves and other garbage, and the residents that have deeded access to that road are being assaulted, verbally assaulted.
No, you're correct, Shelley. The city has a 30-foot easement, and it's dedicated as a public road from East Front Boulevard to essentially the north property line of the first house on that section of Lever Street. That's a private road. So that portion was dedicated as a public road. 30 feet, you know, it doesn't meet our road standards. We don't maintain it as a street. Even though it was dedicated, it was never accepted as a functional street with the city. However, it is dedicated as public use.
Okay. Because I just, the residents that are doing the verbal assaults, it needs to stop. And I don't know what the other council members' ideas are on how we can rectify this problem. There used to be a Lever Street sign up on East Front Boulevard and the dirt road Lever Street, which has been there 40 some years since I've been out here. That disappeared. The residents that live down there you can get to their houses through the cul-de-sac, but it is such a hairpin turn that the fire chief came out and it's virtually impossible to get a fire truck around that curve. So there's just a lot of concerns, and the few residents that do live down there have brought it to the attention of all of us, and I just was wondering if we can rectify the situation at some point.
Well,
If I can add before I'll get to you, Suzanne, just so you're aware, Shelley, when you say all of us, I have yet to be contacted by anyone. So I'm not sure why I'm intentionally being left out of this discussion, but that's fine. I mean,
Oh, I'm
I've
sorry.
lived
I meant
on-
that I just know that the council members have been contacted. I apologize.
yeah, so I haven't been contacted. So Suzanne.
Yeah, my opinion is that I think we need to get that sign put back up there and maybe gravel that road. It's just, I think that will solve any confusion that there's not a road there. My GPS says it's Lever Street. I think we need to keep it. It's the city's. I don't think these property owners should get some 30 feet of free property. That's my opinion. And I think the residents who have that deeded need to, that's a contract. We need to keep it.
Well, I think we got to clarify that the contract agreement or deed, whatever, as far as I'm aware, that's with the property owners, not with the city of East Bethel. Is that correct, Jack?
That would be correct, and that would be the private road, which is south of the cul-de-sac. One other thing we have to look
No,
at.
but Jack, that's the whole stretch because they have an agreement with the Mercels and then the other property owner. That's why I understand the claim to be for the deeded access.
The access currently is, and we may have to have a legal definition of what it is, but the access is 30 feet of public road from East Front Boulevard to the cul-de-sac at 194th Avenue. And the public road then goes south to the first property that's south of the cul-de-sac. That distance is about another 80 or 100 feet. From that point on, it's a private road. It provides deeded access to the three houses at the south end of what's designated as Lever Street.
So I guess the point I'm trying to bring so we all understand is if that city property, then those property owners to the south don't have any deeded access because their agreement was with the private property owners. So I don't know where the city falls into this in terms of responsibility. And,
well, if I could interject, there is some sort of issue. We don't have all the facts right now. I would like to give city staff time to put together a report, look into it, see if they can figure out what it is, provide, and then put together a report so that we can come back and have a discussion on this at possibly the April 26th council meeting. Because we don't have a packet, we don't have information tonight. I don't want to be speculating or on anything. So I would rather have a council report in my hand that we can ask, call it intelligent questions about it.
Great idea, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, can you find out about that drain field? Because Jody had made a comment to me there might be a drain field running through there somewhere.
Yeah, we still
One
have
of
a
those
few.
homeowners on a lake.
I have another meeting set up tomorrow with another resident on there. That'll be part of our discussion.
Okay, and Shelley, I just want to tell you, Marcus Sharm has called 911, and any emergencies, they're going to be coming to the cul-de-sac. They're not coming down Lever Street, so
Well,
just so you know.
The two officers that showed up today, one was directed to the Lever Street that
Out
is,
here in the south end there,
yeah,
on the south end of Weaver Street.
because there's the dirt Lever Street, there's the cul-de-sac, there's the three houses, and then Lever Street continues on the other side of the Bratch property and the Saks property. And that is where the one officer was, the dispatch, that's where he was directed to
Okay.
as of today.
No, but Mark had any fire or any ambulances coming to cul-de-sac, so I don't know about the deputies, so. That's what that's he informed me. I asked him about it, so.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Mayor Voss, I'd asked Craig Yocum to log into the meeting in case anyone had any questions regarding the bids we received for the service road project. Craig is online now, so if anyone has any questions they need to ask him, then he's available for any comment.
Good evening, Craig.
Good evening.
Is there any questions for our city engineer tonight?
See, Craig, I was looking at some of the bids there, like, why do they need a traffic supervisor for a brand new road? What, I mean, there's a pretty good chunk of change going to that.
Yeah, I believe most of the money was on the traffic control. The supervisor, yeah, that was a $4,000 item. Part of those things are just required by MnDOT. It's a pay item that you have to pay as part of their project.
And then I see there's one for a septic tank. I thought all the septic tanks were taken out when we bought those buildings and had them demoed.
Yeah, they actually found another one when they were tree clearing. One of the machines actually almost fell into it. So
Okay.
Nate has blocked it off, and he has it blocked off now, and he just wanted us to take it out as part of the project. So they'll have to pump it and
Okay.
then remove it. Yeah, it's part of the getting the money is there are some things you got to add in. There's, as you can
Okay.
see, 130.
No, I just, like I said, the supervisor, that's $4,000 or $5,000, and then septic was
Right.
another 3 or 4. I don't know. So.
But
I'm
there's
not trying to cut
130
cut
pay
corners, but
items.
it's
So
just kinda-
again, a lot of those are because of VinDOT's type of project.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Craig tonight? All right, thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
Is there anything else for council tonight?
Steve, I just have one thing. We had a booster meeting last week. It's gonna be a scale back booster day meeting. We got another one the 14th, but it's gonna be like late in the afternoon until fireworks, and that's gonna be about it, but there'll be more information coming out.
Good, that's very good to hear. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second,
Pat, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilperson Mundell,
Aye.
Councilperson Harrington,
Aye.
Councilperson Urkel,
Hi.
Councilperson Beck,
aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye. That motion passes and our meeting's adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.